Hello English 101 students. This is a video going over how to use the textbook and the resources available to you as far as creating a works cited page goes. Okay, so we're going to be using chapter 20 for this PowerPoint. So what you might want to do is pause the video and get your textbook out and open it to chapter 20, because that's what I'm going to be referring to throughout this PowerPoint. Okay, so first and foremost, before we get to the basics of the works cited page, we can use the beginning of chapter 20 as a resource for creating in-text citations. Remember, we have to cite sources in two places. That would be in the text with a parenthetical citation. It would also be on the works cited page with a works cited page entry. For the in-text citation, if you have it, author's last name and page number is what will go in the parentheses. If you don't have a page number, you have an author, for example, like on a web article, then it would just be the author in parentheses with no page number. If it's an article that doesn't have an author, and a lot of the ones for the career essay aren't going to have an author listed, you would put the title of the article or an abbreviated title. And if that's not available, it's the title of the website. Remember, the title of the website is the name of the website. For example, the name of the website for the school is Coastal Alabama Community College. The URL is www.coastalalabama.edu. So make sure if you're going to use the title of the website, it's the title of the website, not the title, the URL. Okay, so your book has an excellent breakdown on pages 432 to 434-ish of what a works cited entry should contain. Okay, the basics are the author, the title of the source, the title of the container, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a second, other contributors, version, number, publisher, date, and location. Now, there's going to be times when you don't have this information, or not all of it. Say you don't have an author, then what do you start the citation with? Title of the source. You go by the information you have in this order that's listed here. In the textbook, use the guidelines to MLA style and the core elements as your blueprint for creating a works cited entry. And you start with the information you have and do it in the order listed. So this PowerPoint is going to do it in the order listed. So we're on page 433 here. Basic parts of the works cited entry. We'll start with the first two. Author and the title of the source. I don't know if I can move this down so you see it better. Yes. Okay. Author is just the listed author, or authors if there's multiple authors, and then the title of the source. This would be the title of the article, the title of the book if it's a book, title of the episode sometimes. But the author is the person or people who created who wrote or otherwise created the work. And the title is the title of the specific sources you're citing. And we're going to touch on this a little bit later. But for example, we probably all remember the essay in our textbook about the founding of Frito-Lay and Fritos. Charles Elmer Doolin created the company. Well, that essay is entitled A Bite-Sized History. That would be the title of the source. All right. Steps to Writing Well, which is your textbook. If you're looking in the bottom corner. That's not the title of the source. That's the title of the container. So make sure that you're citing the title of the actual source you are using. For example, when you talk about the Occupational Outlook Handbook, the OOH from the Department of Labor, the title of the article might be Summary, Pay, How to Become One, and so on. It wouldn't just be Registered Nurse or something like that. Okay, So continuing on the bottom of page 433 and moving on to 434, the next thing that would go in a citation would be the title of the container. This is the larger source containing the source you're citing. So if you're citing within a book, the container is the book. As I just mentioned, a bite-sized history is the title of the source. The container would be your textbook. For an episode of a TV show, it would be the series. And an article's container is the title of the periodical or the website where it appeared. So, an example of a book would be our textbook, Steps to Writing Well. Television show might be NCIS or Law and Order SVU or something like that. A website might be Purdue University's website. The online writing lab would be the title. Might be the title of the article. Periodical would be something like the Shakespeare Quarterly or other academic magazine. Okay. So let's look at an example. Look at page 631 of your book. Who is the author? Who is the title? What's the container? Go ahead and pause the video and go look it up. Okay, I'm assuming that you paused the video and looked it up, but this is how you would cite the source using MLA style. The author, E.B. White. Oops, let's go back. Last name first, first name. The title of the source is Once More to the Lake. It is contained in our textbook. It's a work in an anthology, Steps to Writing Well. Other contributors would be here, edited by Gene Wyrick, the edition, publisher, year, and the pages that it appears on. Now notice with a works cited entry, the second and subsequent lines are indented. Okay, that's very important for this sort of stuff. Okay, other contributors, as I just mentioned, might be an editor. It may be contributors to the work not listed in the element, which is the author. So if it doesn't say list two authors at the beginning and it has an editor, the editor would go after the container. This might include editors, translators, performers, etc. Introduce each name or set of names with a description of the role played. So for example, edited by Gene Wyrick, but it might be translated by somebody else. Okay? And there's lots of examples of this stuff in your textbook. Okay, I press the button. What's going on? There we go. The next thing in the works cited entry would be the version. This is the description of the source that appears in more than one version. On the works cited entry that I gave you, it was the 10th edition of Steps to Writing Well. Sorry, I had a little pop-up there. So, the book for our class, the textbook, is the 10th edition of this textbook. So that's the version that would go in here. But sometimes for like an academic journal or a periodical, whether it's paginated by issue or not, it would be like, say, the spring issue, the summer issue, or issue 1 for year 2014 or something like that. Alright, continuing with the ones that are on 434. This is the number. So, indicates the source is placed in a sequence. So this could refer to a volume or an issue number of a journal. So the volume and issue would be separated by a colon. So say it's volume 2, issue 2, it would be 2:2. Sometimes the volume is called something like spring or summer, fall, that sort of thing. But this is going to be the volume number of a book, volume and issue numbers, or the season or episode numbers of a TV show. Some TV shows have numbers as opposed to episode names. But, like, for example, with episode names, if you were watching, say, Friends, or using that for a paper, I don't know why you would, but they all the episodes start with the one with the, and fill in the blank. Alright, so basic parts of a works cited page entry continued. The publisher. This is the organization that delivers the source to the public. Now, they should not be listed for periodicals, work published directly by an author, website for which the publisher's name is the same as the title. So, for example, maybe if you had Encyclopedia Britannica, it's both the publisher and the website name, so you wouldn't need to include the publisher. Or websites that do not produce, I need to fix that, the works. Let me fix that right now. Produce. The works they house. So publishers can should be listed for books, films, TV shows, and most websites. So here's a sample with the author, title of the source, container, other contributors, versions, number, and publisher. And this is from page 442. We have the author, Elizabeth Cohen, title of the article. Here is the container, CNN.com. Publisher, Cable News Network, which is CNN. Date it was published, and then the URL, and then the date we accessed it. This is how you would cite an article from a website with the author named. Author, title, container, publisher, date changed, URL, date accessed. So, continuing on, we're moving on to page 434 and 435. The next thing you would put on a works cited page entry is, and again this is if you have it, is the publication date. This is when the source was made available to the public. This could mean when the work was published or republished, when it was released in theaters, iTunes, broadcasts, or what have you. Now, for a lot of web sources, they're not going to have the date it was updated. But if you have that, it's an important thing to put in there. If we look at the previous example, see this was published on November 27th, 2008. And this is the format you need to use. Date, month, year. And then the longer months are abbreviated. And then the date accessed is here. So if I go to check your source and I see that you checked it on the 18th of September, and I go to this article and there's been an update, say on the 25th of September, then I know it may not be exactly as the source you cited in your paper. And that's really the thing to remember about all this stuff. This is so somebody can check your source material. This is not arbitrary information. It's giving your reader information so they can check your sources if they wanted to. Okay. Location. Where it was published, if it's a publisher. For an online source, this is the URL, the actual web address. So here is a URL right here, www.coastalalabama.edu/students or /students. This is where we can record the location of something, so maybe the page numbers or what have you. Now, the page is going to be basically your table of contents for creating works cited entries. Is going to be page 438 of your textbook. This has a list of where you find in chapter 20 the examples and the explanations of all the sorts of sources you can cite in your paper. But make sure you're reading the sample explanation so you can put it into context with all those things that I listed, which are, once again, author, title of the source, container, other contributors, version number, publisher, publication date, and location. Those are the basics that everything should have if you have that information available. If you don't have the information available, for example, you have a web source that doesn't have a date updated or a date published on there, you just go to the next thing. Not everything's going to give you as much information as you'd like, but you use the information you have. Okay, also, for formatting purposes, you can see an example of the MLA Works Cited page on pages 465 to 466 of your textbook. Also, one of the other videos that I do shows you how to get it on the OWL Purdue website. But use this as a source, and if you're going to turn in your career essay and you look at this Works Cited and yours does not look like this, I mean, this isn't in Times New Roman 12-point font, but in terms of the double spacing, reverse indenting, all that sort of stuff, then you need to work on fixing it. Okay, so final thought. Correctly citing sources takes practice, so be patient and stay with it. Use the textbook and the online writing lab at Purdue. These skills will help you regardless of how long you're in school or what major you're pursuing. There's a reason why English 101 is required for everybody. Okay? It's because these are skills you're going to need in other classes. Now, once you get to upper division, instructors may not expect you to know stuff, or may just expect you to know stuff. Learn it now when your instructor will work with you. They may just say, do this paper in MLA format, but not spend any time in class on it. If you work hard to get this stuff right, the worst that will happen is you will have to revise the paper. However, if you don't put the work in, there will be some consequences. Basically, if you're trying hard to cite your sources correctly, you've watched all the videos, you've read the chapters, you've tried to follow the patterns you see there, then more than likely you're just going to get comments on what you need to work on. However, if you don't put the work in, that's where you're going to see some consequences. But above all, remember that only a few academic types memorize this stuff. Most people struggle with it, so it's okay to be frustrated. Just keep working, and everything will be fine. Use me as a resource. I've given you other resources in other videos and in class. Use everything that's available to you. Okay, so that's all for this video. Please let me know if you have any questions or would like me to give you some additional resources to help you out.